You don't have to use a pendulum to dowse with necessarily. You can also use a tool known as an L rod. This brief presentation will show you how to make your own L rods, and it will give you some brief pointers on how to use them. I like to say there are three grades of L rods. There's the simple, the fancy, and the field expedient. I'll show you here how to make simple ones, and I'll show you some examples of fancy ones, and also discuss the idea of field expedient L rods. You will first want to get a length of about 1/8 inch diameter metal rod. It can be steel, brass, or aluminum, whatever. You want it light enough that it bends reasonably easily, but you want it stiff enough so that it will retain that shape once it is bent. You then cut your rod into equal lengths. I suggest about 18 inches. We're using a bolt cutter here to cut it, but you can use anything that will work. Using a pair of pliers or something similar, you then just bend it into an L shape. I generally find a ratio of about 1:3 of short side to long side works pretty well. You may want to add a sleeve to it to make it a little fancier. This actually allows it to swing a little more easily in your hands. You can use a hacksaw or something like that to cut it, although you may find you need to smooth it off a little bit with a file because sometimes the ends can be jagged. If you do decide to use a sleeve, you may want to bend the end of it over to keep the sleeve from coming off. You see three grades of rod here. You see the simple version, then you see one with a sleeve on it, and then you see one that has a plastic tube used as the handle and then a piece of foam hose over that, which made it a lot more cushy and comfortable to use. Field expedient means you use just whatever you have on hand, and there are lots of things that will work. I've even seen people use coat hangers as L rods. They grab the coat hangers by the long side and the hooks point forward, and then they use them just like they would an L rod, and they work fine. How do you use your L rods? You start off in the ready position, as you see here in this photo. Hold them level so that gravity doesn't pull them and make them turn. And you hold them tight enough so they don't fall out of your hands, but loose enough so they can still turn freely. Then you program your L rods. Just like in using a pendulum, you need to know when they're telling you yes or when they're telling you no. To program your pendulums, you hold them in your hands parallel to each other, and then you say something like, "Show me a yes," and they will choose an orientation that for them means yes. Often that is crossed. It could also mean just staying parallel. And then you duplicate that for no. You say, "Show me a no," and they will adopt a different orientation that will mean no. And that way you'll know what they are telling you when you go about trying to solve a problem with them. You can also use a single L rod in circumstances where that's necessary in case you need to use some other dowsing tool at the same time. It works similarly to how you use two L rods, but there are cases where two work better than one and one works better than two, and you'll just have to learn what those are, although we'll discuss some of them in class. There are cases when you may want to use just a single L rod, such as in a situation where you need to have the other hand free to use another dowsing tool of some kind. The process is similar to how you would use two L rods, but there are cases when two will work better than one, and some cases where one will work better than two. We'll discuss a few of these in class. There's more to it that we will learn about in class, but this should give you a good starting point.